I don't see none. Oh, we're good? Okay, so we'll call this November 20th meeting of the County Animal Welfare Advisory Committee to order. And first business on the agenda is we need to elect a new chair because my term is out, which means your co-chair term. So would anybody like to volunteer? I think it's Dr. Lee.
I nominate Dr. Lee.
Yeah.
They can also reappoint. You guys
Yeah,
can
that's what I'm
also
saying.
not renominate.
Would you like to continue? You're been a great chair.
I don't mind doing it if anybody, but if somebody wants to, if somebody wants to come sit at the end of the table, by all means, I don't want to stay in the way.
Yeah.
I would be fine with you.
Yeah, I think you're a great chair.
I think it's really well with you. I'm fine with it.
Okay, so that's a motion and a second.
I need to, I guess nominate Perry as the new chair.
And a second. And all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. I guess motion carries. Enjoy.
Congratulations.
Okay, now we need a co-chair and vice chair.
Would you like to continue? Nominate Melissa.
All those in favor? Aye.
That's
All right, well, moving forward. We've all had an opportunity to look over today's agenda that has been very meticulously prepared for us. Motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, I know we all got the email about the last meeting's minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those as they've been prepared, or you've had a chance to flip through them enough?
Yeah.
Since we've been here. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Second,
Second.
all those in favor to approve the minutes from last meeting?
Aye.
All right, now we're moving on to our public comments. As a reminder, it's 3 minutes to speak about whatever you would like to. It's not a question and answer session, it's just 3 minutes to openly speak. And then when we get further on into the meeting, if there's any topics that were brought up during those public comments that the committee would like to discuss and have any discussion about, then we will do that at that time among the committee members. So at this time, I'll open the floor to public comment. Does anyone have anything to say that they would like for 3 minutes? Seeing no one, move that we move on in our agenda to old business.
May I make a suggestion, please? Since we do have a guest here, under new business, I would request that we move new business before old business so that she does not have to stay the entire meeting.
Thank you.
Is there any objections to switching our agenda around that we've already approved?
No,
Yeah,
we're meant to touch it.
For the sake of our guests, I'm sorry, I moved fast.
Well, the chair has discretion to change the agenda.
Well, just making sure everybody's good with that. So we will move into new business then. And I'll turn that over to whoever's doing the new business.
Kristen and Dr. Applebaum.
Oh, would you like me to?
Yes, so the Wagmore Foundation reached out to Dr. Jenny after her application for paper, which I think is in the back of the pocket, right?
Yes.
And we talked, and Dr. Levy brought it up at the last meeting about the associations between housing and stranger pets shelters. So and to see if any research can be done in Washoe County. We do have a private rental market here, and so Dr. Applebaum put together a proposal and talked to Julie, and she'll be speaking to us today.
Sure. Yeah, so thank you for
having me here. As Kristen was saying, I was approached by Wagmore to solicit a grant proposal to essentially get at some of the housing related reasons that there is this reduction in large dog adoption in the county. I put together a proposal that has 3 parts and it's supposed to run for all of 2025. Essentially, we'll first do a policy analysis. So we will be looking at local, state and federal policy related to pet inclusive housing. So essentially understanding what the law says, what the policies say, and then also policies related to rental housing units themselves. Next, we'll do a program assessment to kind of find out what other places are doing to kind of alleviate some of this burden of usually pet rent or complete restrictions on, large breed dogs or certain breeds or pets altogether in rental housing. And then we'll do focus groups to talk to local landlords, different government stakeholders, animal welfare stakeholders like yourselves, and as well as renters with pets. And we're hoping to recruit some folks who are relinquishing due to housing issues to participate in these focus groups that will understand, all kind of the perspectives of all the players locally who are making decisions, where decisions are coming from, how renters are handling these barriers, and how it impacts, decisions to relinquish or not adopt at all. And so that essentially kind of is an overview of what we're planning to do. And we hope to do it collaboratively with you all. So we'd be asking for, just the support of helping us recruit people, introducing us to any important people that might want to have the voice at the table for this kind of study.
I'll let you give a little bio.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. If you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm Jenny Applebaum. I have a PhD in sociology and a master's in veterinary medicine, shelter medicine. And prior to that, I worked at the Humane Society here, and I was a dog and foster coordinator. That was my first job when I moved to Gainesville 11 years ago. And so I have intimate knowledge of kind of the systems here, and it's essentially working at Humane Society was what motivated me to go and get my degrees and start doing this kind of research, because I was really interested in kind of figuring out ways to do evidence-driven approaches to helping support the human animal bond for everyone that wants to have the human animal bond, essentially, is supporting pet ownership for vulnerable communities, marginalized communities, and those who are lower resourced. And so that led me to do a lot of different research in different areas, but one of my passion areas and some of the research work that I've been doing, including this publication, is related to the impact of housing issues on pet relinquishment.
So we met and we're really excited to participate in this as much as we can. It's not asking a lot extra of staff or shelter or anything. It's just that if we notice that we're giving that information and asking people if they're comfortable sharing that information with Dr. Applebaum so that she can just kind of start charting what is being set out there. I know that we've had several people come into our shelter very concerned. Some of the pet rents are pretty exorbitant, and I can't imagine a lot of people being able to afford those. Some of the pet deposits have gotten really crazy. I mean, more than security deposit of rent itself. So I'll be interested to see what we can come up with, and then maybe we can get with Adam. And Adam Leith has joined Jacksonville Humane, and maybe we can talk to them about some additional funding for pet owners to be able to keep their pets and stay in their homes.
That would be amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I forgot to mention that the outcomes from this project are, we're planning to make policy recommendations. So I'm working with a policy expert who does housing and animal welfare law. She's a consultant on this project and has collaborated with me on all the pet-friendly housing work. So actually making recommendations that stakeholders can go to policymakers and say, like, this is what we are seeing from the research. These are the things we've implemented. Also creating educational materials for the public and other stakeholders in the community. And then we'll also, disseminate it academically through papers and publications.
it's very exciting. We're excited to be part of it. Are you partnering with Kate McFall by chance from HSUS?
No.
No, or who's the state lobby?
Oh, it's Lauren Loney.
Oh, yeah, okay, gotcha.
She's
Our state
with,
lobbyist.
she used to be at HSUS
Yes.
and then she was with Haas.
Yeah, yeah, great. Excited.
You mentioned that we had a applicant for the committee. Was that Dr. Applebaum?
No.
All right.
You certainly do.
It's not out of the realm of
Right, it's
consideration.
not,
that I would-
Application.
I'm not against it, right? If you want me, then how could I say that?
While we certainly are not, while we certainly do not have policy and whatnot, we can certainly recommend as a committee.
Yeah.
So, if you were to submit an application in the future, I think you probably get a recommendation from the existing committee. She wanted to be part, so.
We meet quarterly, so it's
Okay,
it's
yeah.
not hybrid and.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so, I hope you'll at least browse the paper. It's a really robust
Amazing.
study. It's, a lot of data points and the discussion goes into, a lot of the housing related issues like pet rent and what pet rent actually pays for, and then the trends of the, adoption of cats and the size of animal, dogs. So we know, there's a lot of applications, but we're seeing a lot of time. And, if we don't know what's going on, data wise, then it's difficult to make the right, policy decisions or operational decisions. So that's one reason I'm excited about the paper, the original paper, but also the research. And two, because Jenny will be publishing it academically on other parts of the country.
Absolutely, which was exciting. And I will say that when Jenny and I met, what I really enjoyed is we had a really kind of unique conversation around my view, just being in the industry for so long and pets continually getting brought up that they are property. Pets are considered property in the United States, period, yeah. And so my feedback to this is that you don't charge rent if you bring in a refrigerator. You don't charge a deposit if you bring in a king size bed or a twin bed, maybe a water bed, but not a twin size bed. I mean, you don't charge these deposits or rent for other property, quote unquote. The pets were considered property. So how is that even legal, really? If you think about it, because we're not charging because you brought a bracelet to the new rental, right? That's property. So how can you make the argument that pets are property, but then put a price tag on? And so that's what part of the
Especially
conversation
when
is.
you're already charging a pet deposit.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, a lot of these things are kind of exploitive.
Right, they are very,
And, it's unregulated throughout
yeah,
most of the states.
Yes.
So, it's a tough uphill battle, but
Yes.
there are people making some progress.
right.
And that's reflected in the data too.
Absolutely.
With ACAR, do you do data collection at surrenders or relinquishers rather?
Some, it's not as robust as it needs to be. So we will have to add some categories in. Housing is one of the categories. So that is one of the categories. We just need to make sure that we are refining it a little better based on Dr. Applebaum's recommendations on what is it exactly, because housing's so broad. So it could be, if they owner surrender because they, they're getting evicted, as an example. That could be one subset for data. But if they're getting evicted because they're doing illegal things, we don't want that included as lost housing because of doing illegal things. Does that make sense? So we're trying to come up with some criteria on how to subset those intake types. And that's what we need to do, because right now it's very broad, it's just housing. So we need to have more categories like pet, because of financial pet deposits or pet rent. So we need to break those down further so that our data is cleaner for this program.
Yeah, for this specifically, we weren't really gonna analyze like large scale
Right.
data,
Right.
shelter records.
Right.
It was more referrals for like if when someone is at
Wanting
the
to
shelter
relinquish.
relinquishing or trying to relinquish
Great.
due to housing, it's basically like, here's a flyer, are you interested
Gotcha.
in participating in the study?
Great.
Thing. So,
I love that.
but I would love to talk with you about data refinement in
Sure.
the future, because that is such an important point.
Yes.
There's a movement to across the board in sheltering,
Right.
trying to collect better relinquishment
Right.
information. So,
Right.
Yeah.
I like it.
Any other new business? Back up to old business and turn it over to Director Johnson.
Thank you. So did want to talk about the new shelter. It is progressing. Believe it or not, it seems like we've spoken of it for a while, but we are much closer than where we have been previously in the discussions with UF. The county manager has met with the UF personnel that are all very embedded in this project and feel that they have gotten everything a lot closer. On the vet agreement side for the shelter medicine part, that is not, that is gonna have to be a separate agreement. Thank you so much. That will have to be a standalone separate agreement like an MOU and not part of the lease agreement. And part of it is just because one is programmatic, one is, physical capital. So it kind of makes sense to separate the two of those out and have one standalone. And that, on its own as an MOU and the other then to be the actual lease for the property. So it is my understanding that is coming, it has to still go back then to the county commissioners after that final review is done, and then hopefully we should be hearing soon. However, that has not stopped us from having the internal and external discussions with the architect. We do have a meeting as well to bring on the construction manager. The architect was the most critical first piece to bring on board. So we're waiting in the negotiation part of that with the architect. And then after we get the architect and the construction manager on board is when we hope to start having to do the community engagement meetings. And so some town halls, really focused on, what people do want in a shelter, what they'd like to see and that type of thing. But we needed some other experts on board so that they could also hear the community speak. And I thought that was really important to at least have one, the location nailed down. And two, the experts on board, they're going to be working with us hand in hand so they hear the community input, just, firsthand, not secondhand.
So I'm involved in political stuff at AFB for a while, even outside and stuff, and public input is an interesting part of the process. I just went to a master plan for the county, my master plan for an open house. And I think it's one thing to say, what kind of rooms do you want in the shelter? And then say, how would you like the shelter to better serve the community?
That's right. See, that's where I'm going.
Yeah,
I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of like, this room will have 2 tables.
right.
I'd rather keep it higher level of what programs can we provide that serves this community. Because,
Or when I go to the shelter, this
Right.
is what I want the experience to be like.
yes,
And then have the experts and architects and the behavioral folks and the
Right.
veterinarians interpret how we want the to function and to that.
and the flow, yes. Agreed. I have been to a couple of community engagement meetings where they've gotten really in the weeds about like where a chair goes, or where a picture is hung, and I'm like, gosh, it's a little too much, with the little sticky notes on the, on the papers, so I think that keeping it a little bit higher level, so like you said, is that we're keeping it more programmatic and function for the public. you know, and what kind of space do they want to see? What do they want to feel when they walk in? You know, I think is important. So that's where we're at on that. Any questions on that?
Is there any advocacy on our part that we can be doing, or there's just a process thing that we've got to write
I
out?
think it's the process right now until they get that sign. I can't. You know, we're all still in that holding, you know, flyover pattern. Hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have some news. So that's my hope. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, are you speaking on the foundation checklist?
Yes, Sarah can speak on it too. Sarah helped put together the found pet checklist, which was requested by Dr. Levy at the last meeting. It is in your packet. And so the goal will be to distribute this to the veterinary offices, et cetera, so they understand the policy of taking in, you know, animals that they quote unquote find. Because we do struggle sometimes with veterinary practices accepting animals as a stray and then just wanting us to come pick them up immediately when we don't have space. And so to be fair to the public, we have to hold them to the same guidelines we hold the public, because it's not fair that we just take that because it's this and not serve our public as well. And so our found animal guide is what we use currently, that is in the packet. But Sarah came up with the checklist, which is what Dr. Levy had referred to. So she came up with just kind of a draft checklist to see if you thought that there was anything missing off here. Do you see anything that you would like added? Just kind of a generalized checklist for people so we don't have a lengthy document for them. But also they can provide these finders with the found animal guides to assist them, you know, while we're trying to make space for those pets.
Is this just gonna be for veterinarians, or are we gonna also try and get it out to like the PetSmart or the dog food aisle in Walmart, or, you know, places where people with animals would see it? High visibility.
It's been a challenge mostly with vet clinics. It's been the vet clinics overall. So it's, you know, several vet clinics, they'll take in perfectly healthy strays and say, yeah, it has a microchip, but we don't have time to contact the owners on the microchip. Or we don't have, you know, we just need you to pick it up and you can deal with it. And so it's just trying to get the vet clinics more on board with the found animal policy. So the found animal guide is on our website. So it is actually on our website posted already. So anyone can access that currently.
Good.
Yeah, any questions on it? The draft, you guys, good, is everyone good with the draft checklist?
Yeah, so we'll be approving this and then sending out the clinics.
Yep.
Shortly.
If anybody thinks of anything after the meeting, feel free to let me know. I can
Yes.
change this.
Committee announcements, does anybody have anything, or is this back to you, Sarah, about the work plan? Saw there was like a work plan draft in there.
Yes. This is where, so it's that time of year where you get to tout your accomplishments that we've done for this past year, which has been a lot actually. And so we just need to write them down and then submit these, and then Carrie, you get to go with me to a commission meeting and present it. It'll be so much fun.
Everybody read between the lines. It's like, "Oh, nominate him."
So we can just go through real quick and talk about some of the accomplishments we've had. If you'd like, we can write them down and then get that out, so you can get that finalized.
I don't know.
I think Sarah's probably got most of that in a minute. Because we did a lot of talking about that this year. About
did.
trying to do that. So,
Yes,
We've discussed the pet inclusive housing pretty in depth at previous meetings for
Right.
this. Is there anything else you guys would like added to this?
For goals or accomplishments?
Accomplishments. It's hard to think
Yeah,
of.
I can't think, put it on the spot, but, I know it was all in the minutes because we've been discussing it all year long, trying to focus on what things were. So I know we've had discussions about it, but we'll be back in the minutes as far as, the ground that we covered and whatnot.
Started with.
So as far as this goes, are you gonna?
Yeah, these are in here.
Will
We
you
can
be
finish
going
this.
back through and looking through it and putting this together?
Yeah, I certainly can, that I can send it out to everyone. and
That'd
then
be
you guys
wonderful.
Does
have
that work for
additional
everybody?
feedback.
Okay, we'll go ahead and make that happen.
Are there any goals we would like to include for the upcoming year?
That inclusive housing study.
Right, we get to do that, add that back in, so we get to talk about it as an accomplishment and as a goal.
Stay and neuter everything.
Finalize agreement with you at the shelter.
Right. Is that a good one? You guys
But
love
that-
that, the new
yeah,
shelter?
Yeah, but would that necessarily be our goal?
That's
as
true,
this
not,
committee? Assist where we can with,
yeah,
that could be a goal along those lines.
Or is this with the community engagement or
That could
something?
assist with the community engagement with finalizing the,
okay,
Like participate as a stakeholder
yeah,
in the process.
those are all obtainable.
okay,
I think you can also continue to be an avenue to provide guidance to animal resources. You're already doing. Anything, yeah, you have.
yeah, we did make recommendations this past year to ordinance changes. Already once this year.
Talk to you about the agricultural.
I was just gonna say the Ag and Equestrian Center, remember that discussion? We got that finalized.
Is that this year?
That was,
Another goal along with your vacancies.
See, people have done this before.
I know, see, well, we're trying to help. See, we can whip this out right now. We already got all our accomplishments done that fast. That's done. The vacancies, great,
With room to add more
yes,
as the need arises.
yep. There you go.
We reviewed the animal checklist.
Oh, yeah.
And approved, reviewed and approved.
Requested, I guess, Buckley appreciated that, so.
Fair. A few.
All right, we good? We good there? All right, we have no response to public comment. Because it wasn't a public comment. We'll just,
Did you notice though, may I make a point of pointing out that Sarah did provide the podium that you had requested last meeting? Should we put that in the?
that's one of, the problem is it's not on my screen
I see,
up here, so.
okay,
So,
we'll make that adjustment by pulling it over on its wheels.
yeah, so we can add that to the comment.
There you go. Absolutely.
I mean, the whole system.
Because we did, because that is a big thing we did was we,
We made it more accessible for the meetings.
well, we,
Zoom.
yeah, and we cleaned up our public comment. and-
Correct.
And made our,
Public comment a little bit nicer.
no, what's the sound? We are a, public engagement. We greatly improved
Improve
our
the
policy.
policies.
Yeah, we wrote a policy.
Yeah, that's fair.
We established policy for our public engagement portion of our mandate. And made steps to improve that as we went. So yeah, those are, I feel like those are things we.
It is a big deal.
All right, we'll skip number 10 here for a second. When is didn't we usually have a meeting close to, as far as the next meeting goes?
Valentine's.
Wasn't it somewhere around Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
I was looking back on the calendar trying to
I
figure out.
brought you guys.
I know you did. That's why I remembered it was around Valentine's Day. Like, that was somewhere around Valentine's Day. So,
It was on Valentine's.
Yeah.
It was on Valentine's Day.
was it Valentine's
Yes.
Day on the dot?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, when is Valentine's Day this next year?
And get some more cookies.
Yes, hey.
Friday.
That's a Friday. We usually meet on,
Wednesdays, usually the second Wednesday. There was a scheduling conflict this time, but we'll book it early.
second week,
Second Wednesday.
second Wednesday, is that, you said there was you said there was conflict this time, that's
Correct.
so is the 12th? Is that right? February 12th? See, issue. So pending the availability of the room, is February 12th good with everybody?
Yeah.
Same place. And Sarah, you'll check and
Yes.
check our availability.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I don't know enough about this appreciation lunch.
We're gonna tell you all about it.
All right, so who's taking the lead on the appreciation luncheon? Who do I need to turn the floor over to?
We need to appreciate you guys.
Yes, we
So we're
appreciate
gonna
it.
All right.
Post a luncheon. If you want some feedback on dates and times, yes.
Oh,
We did bring some
I
munchkins
thought we were
today.
gonna have some sandwiches or something. I was
We
ready-
brought
I was ready-
munchkins today.
I was ready for a cart to come out. So what did you have in mind? What was the general idea?
What you would like to have, this is, to appreciate you for the time you serve. We recognize that you're all volunteers. And we appreciate your service on AWAC and just all you do for ACAR in general. And so it's really just a luncheon to say thank you and get some ideas on what you would like and when you would like that.
I do have to warn you that if you guys are talking about anything that could come before you,
Yes.
it is a notice of
Sunshine
public
and
meeting.
meeting and yes.
So I don't know where you were planning on having it, but for example, at a restaurant, there can't be a barrier to entry, so people think, oh, I gotta buy the meal at Denny's. Or wherever, and it's gonna cost me $10. So I'm not gonna come, so. Just putting that on your radar that it has to be completely social and you guys cannot be talking about AWAC stuff.
Well, what if it was a sandwich platter at Valentine's Day?
At the meeting.
And we had an appreciation, would everybody be agreeable to that?
I'm good with that.
Yeah. And instead of trying to find another day and
So you were saying at
having
the,
to address
at the
those
meeting.
issues, yeah. why
Okay,
not?
so do it at noon?
Or it will actually be a public meeting and we have to broadcast it.
Right. So do you want to do it? Can we do it here at noon? No, we can do it
I'm
here,
assuming
right?
they don't mind you eating and they have a sink there. so
Right.
it's food in here.
They do. So you want to just come at noon?
Well, yeah, do something. We still can't discuss.
You're right, we're just
Well,
eating.
well, what
We're
I'm
just having a
saying
meal.
is, what if we did it during the meeting? And then that way, if we accidentally say something, that way we can't accidentally say something about, you know what I mean? And we'd be good all the way around. I mean, I appreciate the idea of, and I'm still, I'm,
I know.
I would be okay with the idea of, well, not efficiency, but, if we might, something may be misunderstood or.
Just talk about, anything.
Right, it's easy to. I think we can come up with some subjects.
So, so then we do noon, so then noon or 12:30,
Yeah,
12:30,
how was that?
12:30.
Yeah,
we can be disciplined.
I think we are all adults and we can talk about,
other things outside of dogs and cats.
plans, I don't know.
Yeah.
So like, it's a sunshine law, it's what we can still talk about pets and all that stuff and work, but it's gonna be.
We can't conduct business.
Yeah, things that we would vote on as a body, so I mean.
So if we plan to meet here at 12:30 for luncheon, followed by a
Meeting.
committee meeting.
Sounds good, sounds good.
Yeah.
Got it. Easy done.
So, wow. Anybody have anything else?
Is there any updates from the shelter that we should know, any staffing and any events or anything?
Yes, we should need to talk. We didn't have, how we miss that? Did we miss event recap? Okay. So yes, a couple things. Our big adoption event, our Whiskers Wonderland is coming up. We got the public approval. Best Friends did not sponsor us this year for the ads, the radio ads and the digital marketing, the TV ads. So we did do a public purpose form and it came out of our donation account. We used our donation account to place those ads to try and really get the word out so we can get some animals adopted. So they'll be running on 93.7 K Country, can't think of the call letters right now, Wind FM, can't think of the call letters. And then I was able to get in on a cool promotion with Fox 35 Orlando, but pull all the viewers from Marion County into digital advertising and cover some of our area. So it was kind of a cool, like hybrid, so that I'm not advertising in the Orlando market, because I think that might be just a little too far. It went well last year with the homepage takeovers on their website, but I really wanted more impressions up our way. So, so I signed on with the Fox local for Marion, and that's 45,000 impressions a day. So that's 45,000 spins. They're gonna run that, as well as homepage takeovers, which means it'll blank out the page, take over the page for a minute, and then go away. And so that should get us some traction. The radio ads are really cute that they did. It's, you know, kind of sweet. And all of it's website driven, so it's driven right back to our website. Like if you want to learn more, go here. So we kind of ran on that platform this time. So I think we stretched our marketing dollars well this year, you know, for the costs. And it was really successful last year. It played like every couple minutes on the radio. Like literally it played a lot. But they're the two highest Nielsen rated radio stations, not just our area, but for Marion County as well. So it's a good broad swath of cross marketing dollars. So got that done. And those ads will start running next on Black Friday, which is cool. And it'll run the whole month of December with fees waived for the month of December. And then we have Santa Paul this time. Or still Santa Bob?
Santa Bob.
Santa Bob's still coming. We have Santa Bob, which was the biggest hit out of anything we did last year. It was just taking pictures with pets and people, like it was the biggest hit. So we've got kids stuff happening at our holiday party, our kickoff party. We'll have kids stuff, you know, coloring and lots of stuff for the kids to do. And like I said, we had Santa Bob and cookies and that went over really well. So it's a lot of fun. If you guys can, you know, have any time on the 6th or the 7th, stop by and check it out. It's kind of fun. And then you asked me one other thing. Staffing, I apologize. Staffing, so our jobs that were posted just closed the other day. So we have 3 that just closed within the last day. So we'll be starting the interview for the second dispatcher that was approved to help our dispatch, because we are really trying to go to 7 days a week and take the load off 911 because, and we just did a kind of a reminder to residents, 911 is not because you saw a dog run into the woods. Like that is not what 911 is for. Don't call 911 because you got the wrong order of fries at McDonald's, you know? So we kind of set out a nice little graphic on Facebook countywide and sent that to everybody about like, here's what you do if you see a pet, you know, please call this number during business hours, call 911 if you're seeing sick, injured, you know, cruelty, etc. 911 is for. And then hopefully we could have those positions staffed within the next few weeks, I'm hoping. We got a really good bank of candidates this time, which gave me a lot of hope. It was different than the last several times where I've only had like 1 or 2. This time we got a lot of good applicants for all of our open positions, so I'm excited.
Did you hire a job manager again or?
No, that's one of the jobs that just closed yesterday.
Okay.
We do have several good candidates for that position. Yeah, so I was excited. A lot of new names with a lot of shelter experience. And I think that is something I think that we you know, I've had discussions with some of the staff and Gina as well, is really looking at, I think that there is a disconnect. People think that if they work in a veterinary practice or a private veterinary practice, that is the same as shelter. And there is such a difference in shelter medicine versus sheltering. I mean, private practice versus sheltering. They're really two different worlds and they operate differently. We don't have people coming to pay $5,000 to fix Fluffy's, laceration, or something. And so it's a lot different. And I think that by really looking more at people that have shelter experience versus that other experience, which is very valuable to have, maybe in medical, but not necessarily as the shelter. And I think that will help us going forward.
Have you had any feedback from the officers about the,
They love them.
vouchers? Okay, we haven't seen any coming in.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about.
We're
they
seeing
really-
them, we're seeing them from other places, but we haven't
Gotcha.
seen any launcher coming yet, other than. Like, I think maybe just the ones that people schedule when they come in, like we ask our food bank people that come in to,
Right.
if they need space.
I will send an email today.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they're giving them out, I'm just like wondering what they're, if you can maybe ask what they're hearing from people, like what their feedback is.
I think what part of it is they're trying to help a lot of the people that are still unhoused get their animals fixed, and I don't know that they're,
We're working with Grace.
yeah,
We're working with Grace.
There are other barriers that need to.
I think so. I think so. I think, I don't know if transportation's part of it necessarily, but I think that would be huge. I would also think that, depending on when you're talking to the individual, you may or may not get the same answer the next day.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what
Yeah,
they're
fair.
hearing, what their feedback is.
Yeah, I'll ask them.
Well, is there a way to follow up on the folks that get the vouchers?
No,
Okay. I mean, that would require the officers literally writing down everybody they gave to them and I don't.
because, then they're transient population, so that's the hard
Well,
part.
they don't have to just be giving them transient.
They're not.
Okay.
And they're not.
They give it to anybody.
No, they give it to like, people in houses in High Springs and things like
Yeah,
that,
I
so
don't care where
let
they-
me get that feedback, because, that's important.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think I've got one more staff request.
Sure.
Sarah, check out and see if maybe we've set a record for getting through business fastest meetings.
I'll check.
With that in mind, do I have a final motion?
When motion to adjourn? Move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Business is closed. Thanks for coming.
Are you surviving?
I think that was-
Good. Yeah.
I like that video to do Jack. We've got a.
Do you hit the big thing?
Analysis.